One of the big changes is historically what has been called the Beach Activities Ordinance also included the bay. Bay activities really shouldn't be in the beach activities, so we're going to now have two ordinances. We're going to have the bay activities, which is in the old wake zone ordinance, and then we're going to have the beach ordinance. That's a change, but not so much a substantive change as a change that should make it easier for citizens to find what the law is for their particular activity more readily. The beach is a big topic, and the reason the beach is a big topic is because about 70% of our economy is generated on the beach, rentals, restaurants, activities. So, I mean, it is of crucial importance to a lot of people, not only in the south end of the county, but also in the north end of the county. You know, one of the big topics is chairs in the water. We heard some about that. Another huge topic, apparently, is the fire pits. Code compliance has proposed a change that would change the time where they have to close up from 1 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock. That's a fairly important change. The reason is because while the vast majority of people obey the law, the vast majority of vendors are no different than the vast majority of people. They obey the law. But there's always one or two, and it's those one or two that we have to have enforcement on. And so if we've had a gap between when the enforcement arm, the officers, went home, activity was closed down, and that sort of breeds issues. One of the big issues is that people dumping the coals either in the dunes, which is bad, or the water, which is worse, or burying them in the sand, which causes a safety hazard. If you're walking along the beach and walk onto a pit, that's not going to be a very pleasant experience. So code compliance has requested changing the times. The vendors are pretty vehemently against that. So we had a lot of discussion, and a lot of the public who lives in the area don't like the fires on the beach. We've got the citizens, the vendors, and the tourists who all sort of are at cross purposes. At the end of the day, I think the beach is like any other park. To keep a park pristine and pristine condition would mean that the park is not used. That's not what we want. We build parks to be used, but for instance, if you go to We Care Park here in Defuniak, that's where our multi-use fields are. And you can't go out there in an afternoon and not find people out there playing soccer. A lot of people. So those fields are never in good shape as far as the grass always equal height, and always there's no worn spots, and there are worn spots on those fields, and there are places that are bald, and there are places where the grass doesn't grow good. And it's not because they're not being cared for, but they're just used so much. Well, last year we had about 4 to 5 million visitors on that beach. That is a huge number of people. And so all of those public beaches are used a lot. Because of that use, they don't look pristine. Now, there are some areas that look better than others. For example, Grayton generally always looks good. Another problem is when you get east of Topsail Hill, that beach has never been renourished. And so when you and I were kids, that beach was huge. I mean, like Blue Mountain, or at the old, there at Goat Feathers, at that beach access, Seagrove. And when you walked out onto the beach, first of all, there was huge dunes, and it was sort of like walking through a cavern. And then when you walked out onto the beach, it was hundreds of feet till you got to the water. And and the water, like you said, the beach was just as wide as it could be. Well, that beach is, in some places, not even 50 feet. A lot of places less than 100. between the dune line, or the toe of the dune, and the water. And so you got all these people, way more people, because when I was in high school, you could go down there and not see anybody. Well, you can't go down there now and not see anybody. The use has made things not look as nice as they once did. Now, Brian Kellenberger, who is our director of beach operations, his crews work hard to make sure that the beach is clean and that the beach is cared for. But we really need to re-nourish the beach to make it bigger, so that we can spread people out. So not necessarily get more people. I mean, I think 5 million probably is enough, but so we not necessarily to get more, but to spread them out some more, so that those activities are not so compressed. One of the things that was talked about last night is that we needed to have more distance between fire pits. Well, that's a good idea. When you put them right on top of each other, it tears things up. Another thing was that the tents, that we needed to make sure that there's space between tents. Tents is a controversial issue. Some people like them, some people hate them, and that's a big change. Once again, when you and I were teenagers, we didn't take anything but a towel. You spread your towel out on the beach, and there you were. Maybe a cooler and a towel, and that was about it. And now it's like you're moving in down there. You have your grill and your boom box and your generator and all. They have really done yeoman's work on getting us a better ordinance. We really, we didn't pass a change to the beach activities ordinance last year because we were in court. So we've actually been a year and a half since we passed the last changes. They've really worked hard to bring us what the people want. And as you said, yesterday people were appreciative of the fact that those comments that they have been emailing the commissioners and Mr. Corman and Mr. Sunday and Mr. Adkisson were incorporated into the new ordinance. And we need to be responsive to people. We need to make sure that as much as we can, that we incorporate citizens' ideas into what we do. Mr. Corman has done a good job, him and his staff, of making that happen. And that goes hand in hand with Mr. Adkisson and his legal staff, who have worked well with Mr. Corman. So we're proud of that. Well, the 20th is the public hearing. Ordinances have to be passed in a public hearing. There's specific rules to have to be opened and closed and all that. I think we've got a good ordinance. I think we still have some questions that are going to have to be answered in that public hearing. The actual times on the beach fires is one. Another one is how to handle security agents. In the past, we've had them get a vendor permit. There was some thought about maybe changing that, and so either we can make them have their own permit, or we can go back to the vending permit. There's also a question about whether those permits should be countywide or they should be site-specific. So in other words, if you own a condo, you get one for that one, and everybody that owns a condo gets their own permit for their own security service. That's going to have to be decided. Some of the other rules are, some of them are rather arcane, but they have to be decided one way or the other. If you have an interest in these issues, you need to either be at the meeting, the 20th, or you need to email your commissioners. While it takes a little time, the best way is to do it individually for all 5 commissioners. And the reason for that is it makes it a lot more difficult to get sunshine problems. And the sunshine law is a very important law to government, county government. And we don't want to have any problems with the sunshine law. So that makes it easier. But if you can do one of those 2 things, or come by any of our offices and talk to us and express what you want, what your desires are, and hopefully we'll get something that makes the greatest number of people happy.